Dragon Quest VII is one of those games I've always heard about, but never played. In fact, the whole Dragon Quest series is so large, I didn't even know where to start. But with the new Dragon Quest VII Reimagined coming out, and Dragon Quest VII being one of the games I remember sticking out the most, personally to me growing up, I decided to give it a look. Especially with my recent JRPG kick in the Digimon series. I've been loving JRPGs recently, and Akira Toriyama is one of the GOATs, so no time like the present. And this game did not disappoint. Everything you're gonna hear me talk about in this video is my pure first impressions, point of view of the new Dragon Quest VII demo. The demo isn't super long, but still pretty weighty. It took me about 5.5 hours to complete the whole thing. I didn't get the level cap, but I heard it is level 15. I made it to about level 8, I believe, before I beat it on the hardest difficulty, and your vocational cap is rank 4. The levels and vocation caps are pretty classic JRPG. The likes of Blue Dragon, which I grew up playing, which is another Akira Toriyama game, reminded me a lot like that, or really any class vocational system like the Dragon's Dogma RPG system. Level up your vocations to access new skills, and then your level's independent and it helps your stats specifically. And that's part of the core gameplay loop. Coming into Dragon Quest completely fresh, the gameplay loop was immediately understandable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know if they were all like 7, but this one is very standard to me in the games I grew up playing. So basically, you go through, you explore, you talk to your NPCs, you advance the story, you fight, you grow stronger, you grab something important, and then you go back and you explore it again. That's the core gameplay loop. This brings me to the story where it's very clear early on that you're the chosen one.
You're the chosen one!
And after finding out that you're the chosen one and exploring your island and collecting these fragments, you're teleported to another island where you must find the secrets of that island, save that island, and then you're teleported back to your own. This makes me believe that every little island's gonna have its own story, and that's what it looks like through the trailer as well, and I think that's a lot of fun. You get these little mini stories where every island could potentially have a twist or a strong plot or a strong emotional connection to the character, and really change how the rest of the world views itself when that island arises from the water and it suddenly appears in your present timeline. So I'm very excited to see where this story goes. The level cap, like I mentioned, was capped at 15, and the vocational cap was capped at rank 4. And at the end of every battle you had with an enemy, you got experience for both separate experience for your player level, and then separate experience for vocational rank. And the enemies themselves were something to be said for sure. And I love Akira Toriyama's art style. I love Dragon Ball, big fan like I said, and big fan of Blue Dragon like I said, but some enemies can be colorful, some were expressive, and sometimes they were just weird. Like big lips and long tongues were common among the starting enemies. I don't know, shapes that sometimes made me just like pause and question reality. Like what is going on here? So some designs look genuinely cool, and others look like they escaped a Saturday morning cartoon fever dream.
Lena, Ikis, meet your new roommate, Crumb!
Yes, that's the show I think about when I look at this, and just take a second. That was a child's show, like the wild art concept. On the other hand, the world design is fantastic to me, but I'll be honest, I wasn't sold on the art style when I first saw the trailer. But in game, it was a completely different story. The environments, especially off the top of my head, like the houses, their terrain, and the towns, I love just running around and looking at it and seeing what angles I can look at the houses from. This diorama type of art style. It looked fantastic. And the static elements, I think, shine the most over the moving elements. The character faces are a bit more mixed, but they're growing on me. And specifically, it's Prince Kiefer, I believe his name is pronounced. His face is just, I don't know, the blockiness of it, or I'm not sure. It just doesn't vibe with me as much, but it has been growing on me. In one of the last cutscenes, if not the last cutscene of the demo, it actually looked like normal or like kind of good to me. The rest of the characters I don't really mind. For some reason, I think it's just his that just looks a little off. But with this art style and the ability to move the camera, and then you add in the puzzles the game throws at you as well, and I think it's just a wonderful time. And let me get into the puzzles. Oh my goodness. The puzzles were so reminiscent of like, to me, like old 3DS or like old Game Boy puzzles where I used to grow up playing in the backseat of my mom's car. They weren't too difficult. They weren't like hard, but they made you think a little bit. It was like just challenging enough to be fun, but not challenging enough to take up like a massive amount of time. So I don't know. I really enjoyed each. Every time I saw a puzzle room pop up, I was like, "Oh yeah, let me enjoy this for a moment. Let me enjoy this art. Let me enjoy, how the way my brain is ticking on these puzzles." I really loved it. Something else that is memorable was the audio and music choices. The music, I think, deserved a special mention. It has great old school RPG feel of music. Like I'm just running around the town, and sometimes I listen to like Traverse Town just randomly from Kingdom Hearts. You guys play Kingdom Hearts? You know that Traverse Town beat? Sometimes I just play that in my truck when I'm driving around, and this kind of gives me that same feel, like where I'm just kind of, it's just this melodic and adventurous and emotional, supportive beat rather than like an intrusive beat or something that like kind of takes over. It combines it with everything that's going on. And I don't know, it was really enjoyable. The audio, though, specifically, when you were opening doors in this game, I just feel like they just left in the original, like, creaky door audio. There was one audio cue they left in, too, when you opened doors or climbed ladders. They left in that, like, old school clicking sound that was just so reminiscent of, like, old Game Boy games or DS games, anytime, or old RPG games, anytime you open the door, you get the same thing. They give you that cool old school click, or the ladder would give you like an unmistakable metal rung audio cue. And they honestly weren't just sounds to me, they're like nostalgic signals that like sent me back in time. And as I'm sitting here right now, off the script, Pokemon, the retro Pokemon games on Game Boy used to use these exact sounds. So just imagine that in your mind, and that's the sound I'm hearing. Like, you really have to play this game, or really just go play any old school Game Boy RPG game like that Pokemon game. Pokemon Red, Leaf Green, something like that. And it's so distinct. I actually loved it. It was like a blast from the past, like a brain blast, like I'm Jimmy Neutron. It was awesome. On another note, still audio, we have voice acting. And the game is not fully voice acted, but what is voice acted is excellent. The performances feel natural and well cast, and the transitions back to text-only dialogue never felt jarring, but maybe slightly disappointing. The text dialogue isn't necessarily bad. It was just that the voice acting was so natural and it felt so good to hear. And especially between the two islands you went to, the voice acting really lent it to like a completely different culture. Like the main island feels kind of like England-ish-y. If you were in England, and then the next island feels like you just sailed over to Ireland. Like, it was honestly really cool. I think the voice acting does a really good job. And going back to that second island that the Gemmo drops the plot twist on, or at least, the main plot twist for me, it's what really hooked me. I like the graphics, I like the audio sounds and the audio cues, I like the gameplay. Even though it's not the most unique, it's really fun. It has some unique names for the job classes, which I really appreciate. So it doesn't let me know exactly what that job class is maybe focusing on until I use it and get into it, and it's pretty cool. So far, I only have the first 3 classes you start with, but what really genuinely hooked me on the game was the story between the two worlds, how it interplayed, and the massive plot twist on the second island that it kind of foreshadows towards the end of the island. I don't know. I think the way they're handling the story is really awesome, and if they can do that with every island you go to have those different plot twists and different style of plot twists on each one, I think I'll be hooked from start to finish on this game. And that brings me to kind of the end of my review, and that is the save system. That has some old school friction, and then the pacing and accessibility for new players. And the save system did frustrate me a little bit because you can only manually save at specific points, and that can be a little rough. But I don't know why it bothered me so much, because I've been dabbling in Dark Cloud 2 for like the last year, slowly meandering my way through that game. And it also has save points there, and it never bothered me. It was almost hard to find save points, and I did leave the story and then come back, and then I forgot how to save. And then pretty much you have to go to a church or a shrine and like pray for a save file. So, you know, gods, please save me this game and don't let this corrupt file, you know, break my computer. But it does kind of clearly align with that old school RPG design philosophy. But the frequent saves or the frequent auto saves, not regular saves, but auto saves really soften the blow. And as you kind of open up the game more, it seemed like there were a lot of save points around. Pretty much every new location I went to had one at the very start. So I couldn't really be too mad about it. It's very accessible. But what about the accessibility of the game for new players? It was a slow burn game, as JRPGs naturally kind of are. It wants you to like move around, talk to everyone, read everything, kind of just sit with the world. If you're new to Dragon Quest, the patience might be required, but the demo does enough to justify it. And really the patience I'm talking about is just the typical JRPG grind patience that you need. And right before I give my first impressions, I just remembered 2 more points I really want to talk about. I think, because I'm playing on PC, that the hitting backspace to talk to your party, to have them give you hints to go through the game, is really cool. Or just to give them specific dialogue or remember where you're at on the quest. And on another note, when you load in a save file, it is the craziest epiphany I've ever seen. And I don't know why any other game has never done this that I've played, but it offers to give you a recap of the story of where you're at. So if you just spend a couple weeks with not playing the game and you kind of forget what's going on, and I think this is especially cool because all the islands are going to have their own stories, that you can kind of get just a straightforward recap from the game before you hop back in. It was just like, this should be in every JRPG, or it should be in every RPG, you know, that's not open world. If it's level based or very story driven or narrative driven, I think this needs to be in here. I don't know. It was just such a quality of life improvement that I really enjoyed, that I don't know why it's not more widespread. I don't know if you guys enjoy it as much as me. Leave it down in the comments if you do, but I absolutely loved it. So my final verdict as someone playing Dragon Quest for the very first time, the Dragon Quest VII Reimagined demo, it just made sense. It made me curious about what was going on. It brought me back to the old school RPG days. It didn't feel like it was rushed, and it kind of just trusted its identity and for you to enjoy it, what you kind of expected for you to get into. Somehow it's nostalgia without being nostalgia, because it's almost entirely brand new. Just the story and I guess the core game is not brand new, but the feel of the game, I don't know, it just feels like a new game that just came out to me personally. And that could just because I am a new player. But if this demo is any indication, Dragon Quest VII is gonna win over a lot of people, I think. And it's inviting you in and asking if you're willing to slow down. And for me, I said, yeah, I'm willing to slow down and give this game some of my time. And that's all I had to say about it. If you're looking forward for a full review after the game comes out, you know, subscribe, like, hit that button. Any other JRPG games you want me to check out, I've been really getting into them lately, starting with the Digimon game that came out a couple months ago. A full review of that is up on my channel, and there will be a review of every single DLC that comes out for that game as well, because I loved it so much. Anyway, that's it from me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.